Well, water is filling the lake and the activity is starting to pick up. It's time to check in for another update. Hi, I'm George Schauer. With water starting to return to the lake, it's time to talk to folks about how are we going to get fish back into the water. We're talking with Dave Arnold from Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission to see what their plans are for restocking.
Yeah, I'm Dave Arnold with the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission. I'm the area manager for Fisheries Management Area 5. We're in charge of from northern Wayne County, Lehigh Basin, down through Easton. We are going to, initially, the first thing that'll be stocked in here officially would be the trout. For hopefully, we're anticipating being open for opening day, the early opening day, which this lake is in this year, it's 2020 already. And we're going to be putting in browns, brooks, and rainbow trout. There'll be also some spawners in there, which are the big brood trout. And it'll be stocked as it normally was in the past for 2020. It'll be pre-season, so the fish are there on opening day. It'll be then stocked again in season, fairly mid-April, and then again in the fall. After that, we're going to initiate a 5-year plan of stocking for the warm water species. In 2020, we're only going to stock largemouth bass fingerlings and golden shiners as a food base to make sure there's a food base in there. We know there's already fish in the lake, and but that doesn't seem to matter because you can never completely drain a lake and devoid of fish because they'll run up into the feeder streams. And that'll be the first year. The second year will be largemouth and golden shiners for all the 5 years. And then fingerling, black crappie, and yellow perch will be stocked. And that'll be for the next 4 years. And then for the last 2 years, it'll be bluegills added in there along with pumpkin seed. And we do the bluegills later because we found out through many experiences that stocking everything at the same time, the bluegills, for whatever reason, tend to dominate, and will even kind of keep and hold back the bass development. So that's why we came up with this plan. And because we're developing a restoration lake program, regulations for that, which because Minsi Lake is stocked, you'll find it under the miscellaneous regulations page in our book, which says that it's catch and release each year for 5 years on all warm, cool water species, except for trout. Trout we allowed to be harvested according to the Commonwealth inland water regs, which are the general regs for the state. Under the catch and release, we anticipate, and each lake is different. They could be side to side, but they develop differently. We anticipate that you're going to have, when we do change the regs, and if we do, if the people don't want it, we'll consider that. If we become more liberal in our regs and allow anglers to catch based on what we find in our surveys, it'll be a good population to fish over. We look at the lake over here and you see all the plants that are growing up, and you're wondering, well, what happens when we refill the lake? And why do we leave them in there and not cut them? Well, the reason is that underwater, these are more terrestrial plants, and they will die and then begin to decompose. And upon decomposing, it's a slow decomposing rate, so over a couple of years, the first year will be abundant nutrient release, which usually occurs in the springtime when the lake turns over. It enhances that release of the turnover, which also then builds a large volume of food for the zooplankton to grow in. They need those nutrients to develop and grow, and the more nutrients, the more zooplankton. In turn, when the young fish hatch out from their eggs, they're zooplankton eaters, so they'll have an abundant crop of zooplankton to feed on. That'll make them grow faster and stronger and be able to survive better than they normally would. And that's why we start out with the young bass. We don't really typically put adult bass in because we want to be able to regulate the growth of the bass more so than nature. And with the enhanced productivity, that's why we have what we call a new lake syndrome, which is also the reason why we have a 5-year plan. It typically takes about 5 years for that to go away. And then you're left, and each year it gradually goes back to what the lake can naturally happen as the vegetation decays out of the system. So by the time of the 5-year period of stocking, it'll be more of a natural lake that we're putting our fish into, and they'll develop and grow not as fast, more slower, but this lake has generally always produced appropriate age fish for the size that they are. So we're not worried about stunning fish or anything like that. We're going to be catch and release during, at least for probably the first 5 years. We'll probably do a monitoring survey in that 5-year period at some time. And depending on what we see, we may keep it under catch and release, or we may change it to a different management program. If we keep it under catch and release, we'll monitor it again at an appropriate time period later, and then reevaluate. Typically, we probably would go to a different type of regulation to allow some harvest. And during the period that it's growing under the catch and release, the angler is going to have a fun time at about year 3. There's going to be a lot of nice fish out there. You're going to have to put them back unless they're trout, but you're going to have some nice panfish. The bass are going to be nice because they're going to be growing faster because they have no competition in there pretty much, or minimal competition I should say, because there are fish. I could hear them jumping around in a little pool there. So you guys in Northampton County are going to have a fine time in this lake for quite a while. I would say at least up to 8-9 years after it's done. And then you're going to really hit what the lake can support.
It is so good to see the progress being made as we move forward into 2020. Now let's tie in with Jim Wilson to see what his plans are for the rest of the amenities and the improvement programs for 2020.
So it's great to know that the water's coming back up. The fish will be stocked here in the coming months, and lake will be open for fishing, for trout fishing. Now the next phase is the complete rehabilitation of all the park facilities here at Minsi. So the county has funding through grants, and county funds itself to match those grants to do an overhaul of all the recreational and infrastructural components to the lake, to the park. So those currently we're in the process of developing the bid documents to solicit bids for contractors to build facilities here, to rebuild facilities and build things anew. Some of those amenities and facilities include accessible kayak launch that'll be attached to the bulkhead right over here by the East Shore boat launch. We're going to install 2 accessible fishing piers, one each on the 2 stone jetties. Here, one on the west side and one on the south side of the lake. We're going to have accessible restrooms, going to overhaul the 2 picnic areas, going to improve lighting, extend the trail system here at the lake. Eventually, we'll install, probably in a year or so from now, a pedestrian bridge that'll span the new spillway. And for the first time in the lake's 50-year history, we'll have a complete circuit hike all around the entire lake, which will be the better part of 3 miles once it's all completed. So good things happening that way as far as the recreational facilities go. We are also partnering, Friends of Minsi Lake, with the Lehigh Valley Audubon Society. They did an amazing job at Leisure Lake when they did that park rehab project and dam reconstruction project by putting up a great number of cavity bird nesting boxes. We're going to install 2 purple martin towers here at the lake, one on each of the shores, the East Shore and the West Shore, which will be exciting to bring purple martins, which are those a species of bird that is all, you can't guarantee it'll take up a residence in those housing structures, but more often than not they do, and especially if they're right near water, and that's the case here. And we do have martins that we see at the lake in migration, so hopefully they'll take up housekeeping in these 2 towers. We'll be doing that soon. The Lehigh Valley Audubon Society is also building a number of nest boxes, wood duck boxes, merganser boxes. We'll be doing songbird boxes like bluebird boxes, perhaps some screech owl nesting boxes, and those will be installed for the screech owls anyway, and perhaps even flying squirrel boxes along the lake trail, in the wooded section of the lake trail on the north side of the lake. Just earlier this year, the beginning of the year, in fact earlier this week, Upper Mount Bethel Township was good enough to partner with us and excavate the lake bed right out from each of the boat ramps. So the East Shore and West Shore boat ramps, their public works director came out with some of his crew with a big excavator and excavated out all the muck and soil and stones that were right in from the ramps to give some more flotation for boats launching from both sides. Fish and Boat will install a boat dock over on the east side of the lake as well. A dock that will be attached to the bulkhead over there, so that folks can actually walk out onto a plank and get into boats from there. So lots of really exciting stuff happening. We'll be building porcupine cribs, the small scale fish habitat structures. Fish and Boat built all the big stuff in lake this summer. So this summer, the week of Junior Conservation School, Northampton County Junior Conservation School will have a cadre of kids and adults to build 100 porcupine cribs, which are structures yay big that will then be sent out onto the lake in specialized boats and sunk at pre-waypointed maps locations in the lake. There will be, and I believe there already is, a map of all these structures so that fishermen will be able to pull them off the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission's website. I believe we will have them with with Northampton County Parks and Rec. Friends of Mincy Lake will. Maps, downloadable maps that'll have waypoints for all the structures out on the lake, so folks can actually paddle right up to a structure and catch a lunker. So we're excited about everything that's happening at the lake and really looking forward to moving ahead here in 2020.
Well, there's a lot of great work underway. We want to thank everyone involved for making all this transformation happen. We'll see you soon on the next Mincy Lake Update. I'm George Schauer.